America is home to 33 million small businesses, the beating heart of communities across the country.
And proof that the American dream is still alive.
This is a show about those dreamers and doers and the communities they serve.
Their real life stories.
Their struggles and successes.
Their grit, determination, and passion.
And the people who fight
to keep their American dream alive.
I'm Alfredo Ortiz.
I'm Elaine Parker.
And it's time for another episode of Main Street Matters,
America's small business megaphone. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone. I'm Elaine Parker with the Job Creators Network, and today we are joined by Perry Johnson, a Michigan gubernatorial candidate, successful entrepreneur, and manufacturing expert who helped American automakers compete globally by writing quality standards that reshaped the industry. Now, after launching one of the largest ad campaigns in Michigan political history, he's bringing the same focus on efficiency, trade, and growth to the governor's race, with a plan to cut taxes and revive American industry from the ground up. Perry, welcome to Main Street Matters.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, as a fellow former Michigander, I was very excited to talk to you about your campaign. You have launched a massive $10 million ad campaign. I'm curious, what is resonating with voters in Michigan these days?
Well, actually, it went way beyond our expectations because my background has been efficiency, right? Quality and efficiency has been what I've known for. I built my companies on this. Actually, I wrote a book, ISO 9000, the quality standard. That was, 30 years ago, and it took off like hotcakes. And of course, now it resonates throughout the entire world. Because the bottom line is that in our government, we lack efficiency. In fact, we are so inefficient that if it weren't for spending other people's money, we'd find it almost comical. And I said, look, we can't continue in this road. We have to keep in mind that in the state of Michigan, we have this wonderful, absolutely amazing state. It's remarkable in so many ways. We have more fresh water, more lakes than any place in the world. We have a wonderful, wonderful climate. I mean, it is true that we do have winter for whatever, 6-7 weeks, which I happen to like, okay? But the bottom line is that we have this phenomenal state, and we've had an exodus for the last 30 years from this state because we have not made it favorable for business and for people. And what I want to do is bring my skill set to our state government because I believe that we can now return the money back to the people. And step one is we are going to eliminate the state income tax. I have introduced this mega audit platform, which is the Michigan Efficiency Government Audit, where we are going to do what we do in business, and we are going to systematically start spending money in a more appropriate way so we can eliminate the state income tax, which would, on an average, send $4,747 every year to the average family in Michigan. And the state income tax is something that is not necessary because if you take a look at just a pragmatic way of looking at it, when Gretchen Whitmer took her office, our overall spend in the state of Michigan was roughly $30 billion less than it is now. And if we had gone up at the rate of inflation, we would only be spending a little less than $20 billion more. Considering that we only collect about $13 billion in income tax, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that with just reasonable planning and reasonable efficiency, we can eliminate the state tax. Now, I have spent my life doing this kind of thing, and this is what I want to do for our state. I have 3 boys. I want them to stay in our state. I want our kids to stay here. I want people to come here. Now, we have had this exodus over the last 30 years, and it's important to realize there was a time when people flocked to our state because we had opportunity. And it starts with job creation. It starts with people being able to keep their money. In every single state that eliminated the income tax, without exception, it ignited the state. An excellent example of this is Tennessee. Tennessee, for example, was going through exactly what Michigan was going through. Year after year, they were losing population. People were leaving, businesses were leaving. They eliminate the income tax and suddenly it explodes. In fact, where did Ford build their new plant? Not in Michigan, but in Tennessee. So we have to keep in mind that if we want to ignite the state, we have to make it attractive to people. And we can do this. Now, I've been running on this platform, and I have a basic theme, 4747. We came up with $4,747 because we took the median income of a household of four in Michigan, multiplied by the state income tax of 4.25, and we end up with a savings of $4,747 every year. Now, we are going to reform property tax. And property tax is a great burden, particularly when somebody is retired, they've paid for their home, and now they're in a situation where they have to continue to pay all these taxes, and in many cases, they can't even afford to keep their home. So I say we change that. And it starts by being more efficient. Now, our government does an extraordinary job of spending other people's money. In our state, it's almost nutty what we do. In 1 year alone, we overpaid unemployment and Medicaid to the tune of over $11 billion, just in 1 year. We spent almost $1 billion trying to increase the speed of the Amtrak train by 10 miles an hour, and we didn't even succeed. And then we have all these different programs that we just throw money to, and we don't even know what's going on. We noticed on the website that there was the daycare centers that were being paid huge amounts of money over in Dearborn. There were 76 or 77 of them, and we wanted to go look at them. So we contacted the state and said, look, we've got these. We wonder, why is the money going there? We did some research, doesn't look like it should be going there. The very next day, all those sites were taken down. Now, we don't know what the deal is on that. We don't know if we have a situation similar to Minnesota because we have not done the research yet. But we did make a copy of these names, and we are going to research it because we need to eliminate the waste, the fraud, and abuse. And that has been my expertise. And I'm like the perfect guy to do this. I mean, think about it. If you wanted to have heart surgery, because let's say your mother or my mother needed to have heart surgery, I would probably go to a heart surgeon. I wouldn't go to an attorney. I wouldn't go to a dentist. I would go to somebody who's been doing this all their life. If somebody's going to work on my teeth, I may have the most brilliant neurosurgeon in the world, but I'm not going to have the neurosurgeon work on my teeth because he doesn't know what he's doing. In fact, I have this bus, and it hit me the other day. We have the bus. It's parked in this very, very narrow window, and it's my campaign bus. And I thought to myself, if I had to move this bus, we're in trouble because I don't know how to ride a bus. So if you're going to bring efficiency and quality to this state, you really do need somebody who's been doing this kind of thing all their life, and I am the perfect guy. Now, in this instance, I'm funding my own campaign. I'm not beholden to anyone. I don't need to give any special contract to somebody because they donated $1 million or $2 million to a PAC. I don't have that kind of situation. I have a situation where I'm funding it myself, and I haven't taken a dime from anyone. Often what happens in politics is that you get people funding your campaign, and now you're beholden to them. So when contracts come up, you have to try to do favors. I don't have that situation, and I think we have to kind of stop that. People actually make fun of the fact that I'm funding my own campaign. They say, this is awful. But is it really that bad? Because you're in a situation now where you do not have to give favors to all these other people. You are in a position where you're your own boss and your own man. And that's exactly what we have here. And I am an expert at this. I've been reducing the expenses, improving the quality of companies, and I operate all over the world. I've done this to over 60,000 companies, and now I want to do this to our state. And I love this state, and I think it is a wonderful opportunity.
Well, I mentioned that I live there, and as cold as it is there, I did love the state. I love the people. I still have great friends there. I agree with you. I think that people do respect the funding your own campaign philosophy. And I think they are tired of politicians who are beholden to special interests, especially in the last 2 years or so since we had Doge come into the federal government, and with Elon Musk uncovering a lot of the waste and abuse. We've seen a lot of waste and abuse uncovered in states like Minnesota. And I think that everyday ordinary Americans who work very hard to make ends meet, when they find out about the waste that's happening in the government or people just really fleecing taxpayer dollars, I think that those types of agendas to uncover waste and have full transparency to voters, I do think that's very meaningful, especially with what we've dealt with over the last few years.
Well, and take yourself. You live in Florida, right? No income tax. Isn't it nice to have no income tax? You get to
It
keep
is.
your
And
money.
actually, we're working on getting rid of property taxes on our ballot this year. We're going to vote on um, actually eliminating property taxes. Governor DeSantis sees that as renting your property from the government. And so they have a couple of proposals that are going to be ballot driven. So I don't know how they're going to replace the revenue, but I'm all for getting rid of property taxes.
Well, what's interesting is in our situation over here, unlike Florida, we have so much room to maneuver because of the fact that we are in a position where they have done very little to try to control cost. We go out of our way to spend every penny in that budget, and then they fight to get a bigger and bigger budget every year. Yeah, some of the stuff we do is like nuts. For example, we spent $1 billion a year to try to ameliorate the quality of reading and writing for our children in fourth grade and under. Now, what's ironic about this is that Gretchen spent $1 billion a year, and when she took office, we were 26th in the country. Now, that is a pitiful result, but we dropped down to 44th with her approach because she eliminated phonics. People think that the answer is always throwing more money at things, but that is not always the answer. The answer actually is trying to look at what do we do to really have a better approach. And let's look at the process of what's going on. And it's not just throwing money, because that does not automatically enable us to have a better quality of education.
I couldn't agree with you more, Perry, because what I have seen over the last 12 years or so working in this sphere and seeing Democrat politicians and Republican politicians speak all over the country at state, local, and federal levels. And even just recently, I was in New Jersey listening to the Democratic junior senator there. What I have boiled it down to between Democrats and Republicans is Democrats measure their success by how much tax dollars they spend.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Republicans measure their success by how much money they allow Americans to keep of their own hard-earned money. It is truly what I have seen over and over again. It's always about how much did we spend and how much of your taxpayer dollars did we spend. That's their measure of success.
And sometimes it's almost absurd. Look at what's going on in California. They're trying to build this train line. I don't know, have the exact numbers because I haven't studied it, but yesterday they told me that they had spent $30 billion and it's going to be 3 or 4 times that additional in order to get this thing done. I mean, it is absolutely nuts. And they're already taxing people at the rate of 13.3%. And now they say, I think they have a bill there. If they leave the state, they want to give them a 2% wealth tax on their net worth.
And I think Illinois wants to do a 10-year look back for wealthy individuals who leave the state. It's really disgusting. I mean, make people want to stay and encourage people to want to stay in your state by making their dollars feel welcome, by making their presence, their investment in your state be welcome. Money goes where it's welcome. It's not going to go where it's taxed and punished for being there. As far as Michigan goes, though, you've been there a long time. I've been there. Manufacturing is what makes that is kind of the heartbeat of that state. What do you think's gone wrong with American manufacturing over the past few decades?
Well, a lot of things have happened, but one of the big issues that people don't realize is that we have had a policy that was introduced in 1998 called the Free Trade Agreement, where people were allowed to ship everything into the United States, essentially almost duty free. Now, what had happened is that China had, and I'm going to give you a couple examples. China had decided that they wanted to take over the steel industry in the United States. So the government of China supplemented the manufacturing operations in China so that people could produce the steel at an extremely low cost. That enabled them to actually ship it to the United States, and we were buying steel at a price lower than our raw cost of producing it. Systematically over time, it killed the entire steel industry. The same thing happened with the aluminum industry. Now, the thing that's ridiculous is that you take countries like India, China, whatever, when we shipped over there, we were having these unbelievable tariffs. Tariffs in India, for example, were up to about 140 or 50% at times on a product. And yet they could ship things here and it was nothing. What about cars? In the auto industry, it was absurd. We gave them all this ability to ship to the United States without really much of a tariff. Nothing. And yet we ship it over to their country and we'll have a 50%, 40%, in some cases 100% tariff. And we let this go on for many, many years, which killed the manufacturing industry. And then we suddenly realized, my goodness, what would happen if we had a war? We don't have a steel industry. In fact, Nippon Steel was about to they were going through acquiring our largest steel company. We wouldn't even have an American-owned steel company. And you say, how do we survive a war? We won't even have the ability to build tanks. You saw what happened during COVID. Because of the fact we became so dependent on outside suppliers, we couldn't even produce cars. There was a waiting list of 6 months to get a car because we didn't have the ability to get the parts. So we killed our manufacturing industry with the policies that we have had. And we're trying to rectify that now. And that is something certainly that President Trump has done everything in his power to try to ameliorate. And I think the auto industry realizes it. I think a lot of industries realize, hey, President Trump's on our side. He wants to help the manufacturing. And he's certainly made significant inroads in that respect.
Yeah, he definitely understands the importance of us growing our manufacturing base back here in the United States. There's been a lot of debates around the tariffs from the Trump administrations. What are you hearing from small manufacturers in Michigan on how it's impacting their businesses?
Well, when you have an initial tariff, you have a one-time hit. And no one disputes the fact that when you have a one-time hit, it's something that you have to find a way to absorb. That is a fact because it was something that didn't exist before. But it's not something that contributes long-term to inflation or anything else. It is literally a one-time hit. And then it causes you over time to say, hey, maybe we reevaluate and we produce more in the United States. Because no matter what anybody thinks, everything revolves around money. Money really is the key to everybody's economy. And you have to be incentivized to actually want to do something. Now, I'm not going to invest in a new refinery or a new plant if I can't see an opportunity to make money. And if the cost is greater than the potential return, I'm not going to do it. But once that is changed, now we reorient our thinking. And that's why you have a lot of plans and people are starting now to build in the United States. And we have manufacturing coming into the United States. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that takes a number of years because you have to plan for the plant, you have to invest, you have to get the money to invest, and then it's a sizable planning stage over a period of years. But we're starting to see more and more manufacturing coming to the United States, and that will continue to happen over the period of the next 5 to 10 years. And it's something that should have taken place a long time ago, but I don't think anybody had the guts to really do it. President Trump looked at it, he saw what needed to be done, by golly, he said, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it's been I looked at it as a really a negotiating tool. And a lot of my small business owners who are manufacturers and part of Job Creators Network, um, it's not that they didn't have turmoil, they did. They were experiencing increased costs and difficulties, but they saw it, they see it as short-term pain to get to a level playing field because they realized that we were not at a level playing field, and that things were uneven, and that the only way to right the ship, as they say, was to take a very hardline position like this and be very tough. And it's something that I think that the president's been very consistent in how he felt about trade with China for 30 years. I mean, you can find him saying it over and over again.
Absolutely. And look at how sad it was. We were looking, we couldn't even build ships. I mean, you take a look at the situation that has evolved because we let this happen over these last, 25, 30 years. It's really a sin. And fortunately, we have someone in office who really sees the picture and he's willing to take the stance because, politically, when you do something like this, you obviously can take a hit. But he didn't care because he's going to do what's best for the country.
Well, I love that you're proposing cutting Michigan income taxes. When I lived there, it was Governor Engler was the governor, and that was what he was working towards, was reducing. And I think ultimately he wanted to cut them, but obviously they went in the opposite direction because they're, what you just mentioned, they're higher than they were when I was living there. So I think living in a no tax state, I can tell you that it attracts a lot of people to want to come here because of the no taxes. And it, again, money goes where it's welcome. And you said, money is at the heart of everything. It is. And Michigan has so much to offer, from sports to lakes to vacationing to beautiful scenery, weather, hunting. I mean, there was so much that state offered, even though I was cold.
Oh, you're not cold. It's
It
really,
offered
come on now. Even
it
the
offered
cold.
so much. I had so much fun living there in spite of the cold. And I grew to actually like the seasons and like the cold and the sports and there was so much to do there. And so I love the state. It was a home for a long time for me. And I do hope that you are successful in cutting taxes for the Michiganders, because I think that would be a big boon for them.
Oh, you can see that. You can see it resonates. When I entered the race, you have to understand that we're sitting over here. I'm entering the race. I was at 4%, and we ended up in a position where I'm the guy that has all the momentum, and we've done almost the impossible at this point. Because when you take a look at what the polling has shown, it has been an exponential impact. And we're running anywhere from 3 to 5% from the top. That was as of about 12 days ago. We may even be in the lead at this point because the message resonates. When I was at the baseball game, I'm at the game and the people are yelling out, 47, 47. Bottom line is, people are tired of the government waste. They're tired of the government throwing away their money. And people want to keep their money. And the government is not thinking about what's best for the people. The people that are politicians are thinking about what's best for them. And that's all they care about. Well, I'm in this for the people. When I am governor, I am not taking a salary. I guess they're going to coerce me to take $1. I'll take $1. But the governor's salary will be $1. And I am in a position right now where I can give back to the state. And I love the state, and it's time for me to take that skill set and make sure that we make Michigan the greatest state in the union once again.
Well, Governor Whitmer has been one of the most anti-business governors out there. Ever. And so I'm curious what you're hearing from sort of the biggest regulatory hurdles that you'll have to overcome. What are businesses telling you are some of the biggest regulatory burdens that the Whitmer administration placed upon them?
Well, they have us go through, so we have to jump through hoops. You have to do a triple gainer if you want to try to get a simple pass to be able to build anything. So if you want a permit, you don't get one permit, you have to get 5 or 6 different permits to get something done. The amount of work we go through in just wasted bureaucracy is so costly, and it's a negative for business. I have somebody in the hotel industry, they said, if I want to build a hotel over there in Florida, it takes me 2 weeks to get the stuff in order. Something in Michigan takes 2 years. The bottom line is that we have made everything so bureaucratic here. We have so much waste in the bureaucracy of getting anything done because they inhibit us from doing anything instead of making it more facile so we can get more and more accomplished so that businesses want to come here. Just the opposite of what it should be.
We have a primary in August,
We do.
elections in November. If you're elected, what's your first move to jumpstart the state's economy?
I told you I'm going to eliminate the income tax. That tax will be gone. I believe I can get it gone within 6 months. My goal is actually 3 months. I want the state income tax eliminated. Think of what happens when people have that extra money to spend. Everybody knows, you don't need to be an economist to know that when the money is in the hands of the people, the multiplier effect is much greater than in the hands of the government. In the hands of the people, you're going to have 2 to 3 times the multiplier effect. So that when I go and I get my hair done, that person that I'm giving the money to now goes and spends the money somewhere else, and they spend the money elsewhere. And this effect is just dramatic. So when you have more money into the people's hands instead of the public's hands, you automatically ignite the economy. We're not even talking about the fact that people now want to come here. So now we increase the number of people that move to the state, which also ignites the economy. Then we incentivize business because now we have a better environment. We bring businesses here, that ignites the economy. Then you have the multiplier effect of the multiplier effect because you have all these avenues that are suddenly surging and it suddenly explodes. Then they write about it. Now that attracts more people to come here. It's the momentum that you get, almost just like the momentum I'm getting in my race. It's amazing.
Well, that is wonderful. I have one more question for you. Where can people go to follow you and find out more about your campaign and where your next bus stop will be?
Well, you go to perryjohnson.com. And if anybody wants to get involved in the campaign, we have a number that they can call. It's 734-789-4747. 734-789-4747.
Love that number. Well, Perry, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I wish you the best of luck in your gubernatorial campaign in the great state of Michigan. And thank you for taking the time to join us on Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone. Thank you all for taking the time to tune in. Main Street Matters is part of the Salem Podcast Network. New episodes debut every Wednesday and Friday. You can subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast from, and we'll be back soon with another episode.